Kelly, if you bought a new house, we're living together too. It's not fair to just leave me behind. Since you married Cohen, we're family, bound by fate. Why do you have to follow me everywhere? It's just me and my husband's life. I need you to let go. Why do I have to do that? Sure, my brother might have gotten married, but we're still his family. Since you married him, you're family with us too. It's nice you think that, but being tied down is tough. Anyway, I'm going to live with you guys. Even if you hate it, it's not okay, and if you don't allow it, I'll make you get a divorce. Alright, then. We'll get a divorce. When I said that, my in-laws seemed incredibly happy. I think they're thrilled about moving to the new house. They must also be happy to have excluded me from the family. I felt relieved to get away from my husband's family since they were becoming unbearable. But on the day we moved to the new house, my mother-in-law kept calling non-stop. She must have finally realized that she fell into the trap I set. What in the world is going on? This isn't what we agreed on. You do realize what you've done is unforgivable? It's too late for that now. We're divorced, so I'm not part of your family anymore. Just give up and live there. Bye. Then, as if he had been listening in, my husband spoke up instead of his mother. You think you can get away with this? I never thought you could be so unreasonable. I don't know why I married someone like you. I could say the same to you. After I said that, my husband had nothing to reply. I hope his self-centered family suffers a great deal. My name is Kelly, I'm 28 years old. After graduating from college, I started working at a real estate firm. It's not that I go out for sales myself, I entertain clients that our salespeople bring in. So, I don't go out of the office much and work inside all the time. But this job involves talking to many people, and I hear it offers more encounters than other companies. Thanks to my job, I started dating someone I met through work a few years ago, and we ended up getting married. When I first met my husband, he was a really good guy, always forgiving whatever I said and always putting me first. When I introduced him to my friends, they were so envious. Kelly's husband is really a great guy. You won't find anyone like him anywhere, you should really cherish him. Kelly's a great person too, so it's no wonder you two met. I'm really happy to hear you praise him so much. I've never met anyone as good as him, so I plan to cherish him. We haven't been married long, so there are still things I'm finding out about him. But you dated for a while before getting married, right? You must know him pretty well by now? Everyone around us is getting married, but Kelly's husband is the best guy. It's rare to find someone who thinks so much about their spouse. That might be true, but I still feel uneasy. I don't know what his parents are like, and there might be mother-in-law issues. They seemed nice when we met them though. If he's such a good husband, his parents must be good people too. But you never know what might happen in the world, so you can't be completely at ease. If anything happens, feel free to talk to me anytime. I'm on your side, Kelly. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Sorry I rely on you so much. My friends really praise my husband a lot. I love him, but hearing them praise him makes me love him even more. It makes me realize how important he is and that I need to cherish him even more. Even after we got married, my husband has remained a good person, always prioritizing me. From what I hear, many people change suddenly after getting married, so I'm really grateful for my husband's personality. However, it's been a few months since we got married, and recently my husband's behavior has been strange. He leaves me at home and goes back to his parents' house often. I don't know what he's doing, so I decided to ask him. Lately, you've been going back to your parents' house a lot. What are you doing there? If something's happened at home, I want you to tell me. Is there a problem you can't talk to me about? Nothing's wrong. I just go back because I want to. Or do you have a reason why I shouldn't go home? I didn't think you were the type of person to be so controlling. That's not what I mean, but why do you say it like that? Something's been off lately, has anything happened? If you're struggling with work, I'm here to help. Because you are an elite working in real estate, do you think you can boss me around? If you've got so much free time, why don't you find us a house to live in? You're in real estate, it should be easy for you, right? Okay. I think I'll look for a house where we can live together. Do you have any specific requirements? If there's anything, I'll take that into account. I'd like a spacious house since we might have kids in the future. We don't know how many, so the bigger, the better. That's why I started looking for a house. I didn't like the way he said it, but I'm glad he's thinking about the kids. Honestly, most couples would be happy with just this, but I've been feeling insecure because my husband has been going back to his parents' house a lot, so this was a relief. While searching for a house for the two of us, I found a few good options and decided to propose them to my husband. He's cautious about choosing things, so I don't expect him to decide right away, but I hope to get some feedback. Just as I was thinking about this, my husband came home from work, so I decided to discuss the houses with him. Hey, I found a few good houses. Could you take a look at them? I'm not saying you have to choose from these, but I'd like your opinion. It will be the house we'll live in for a long time, so let's be careful about deciding. By the way, I haven't told you yet, but starting today, my mom and sister are coming to stay with us, so get ready. If we don't tidy up the rooms, my mom will scold us. I hadn't heard about that at all. What's going on? If they were coming, you should have told me sooner. There's only so much I can do when you tell me at the last minute. I meant to tell you, but I've been busy with work and forgot. It's not something to get so mad about. What's up with you? It's just a bit of cleaning. I don't want to get bad impression from your mom since we just got married. It's awful that you don't understand how I feel. I was just about to discuss the houses, and now the plans are ruined. Why are you so mad? It's just two family members coming over, right? And we can talk about the house anytime. You talk about houses every day at work, you probably don't even want to talk about it at home, right? Talking about real estate at work and discussing our future home are different things. I've been squeezing in time to look for it. Why would you say something so horrible? I was happy that you said we should look for a house. My husband seems completely oblivious to my feelings, maintaining a calm expression. If his mother and sister were nice people, I wouldn't react so negatively. But they seem to dislike me and come off as overbearing. I haven't told anyone because it's a lot of stress for me. I haven't said anything to my husband so as not to worry him, so he probably doesn't realize. Even though I'm this reluctant, it's disappointing that he doesn't show any sympathy. He used to be so kind before we got married. I wonder why he changed. He was desperate to win me over before we were married, but maybe now that he has me, it doesn't matter to him. Still, now that we're married, it's not so easy to just get a divorce, so I'll make preparations for the two of them coming. While I was preparing, the two of them showed up unexpectedly. Oh, we told you we were coming, and you're still cleaning up? You're really sloppy, you know. I wonder how you managed to marry my brother. I'm sorry. I only heard you were coming just a moment ago. If I had known earlier, I would have been prepared. Do you really think that excuse will work? Even if we weren't coming, you should naturally keep the place tidy. Living in a dirty room is just unacceptable. It wasn't that messy. I'll be done cleaning up in just a bit, please wait a moment. You can go upstairs and relax with my husband for now. Really, making us feel uncomfortable like this is crazy. Now that you're part of our family, you need to be more competent. I thought you'd be more capable since you work in real estate. They just kept criticizing me non-stop. It seems they adore my husband so much that they can't stand his wife, me. I heard before that they used to say he never needed to get married. You'd think they'd want him to marry, but this family seems different. They prefer to stay together as a family, and my sister-in-law has deliberately chosen not to marry. Even if they tell me such things after getting married, there's nothing I can do. If they have complaints, they should speak to my husband, who chose to marry. But no matter what they say about me, my husband does not stand up for me. When I talk to him directly, he seems unconcerned. Why did the two of them suddenly decide to visit? Honestly, I'm not comfortable with them, so I'd like them to leave soon. If this continues, I'll just end up stressed. They're staying with us for a while because the house is being renovated. You're just not used to them yet since we're newly married, but you'll get used to it with this visit. Better get along soon, or it'll be uncomfortable. I didn't hear anything about that. I really don't understand. Why didn't you tell me such important news sooner? How long exactly are they planning to stay? I don't know all the details, but think of it as living together. We're a married family now, and we're going to share that. We're about to buy a new house, so why not? Wait a minute. Are you planning to live together in the new house too? When you said you wanted a house big enough for many people, was this what you meant? If we're family, then don't ignore my feelings. You shouldn't be so mad. We're family. Living with 2 or 4 people doesn't make a difference. Anyway, you just need to find a house for all of us to live in. What my husband says really makes no sense. Why do we have to live with 4 people just because we got married? I asked before we married, and I was told there was no chance we'd be living in a multifamily home. Yet here we are, being told this after getting married, and I just can't accept it. But it seems the other 3 have moved quite far along in their plans without me, as I overheard them talking about living together when I wasn't around. I wonder what the new house will be like. If we're doing this, I'd like a place with a big yard. She works in real estate, so she'll find us a good spot. Just sit tight and wait. That's why we married a realtor, isn't it? We need her to find us a good house. She can't do much else, so at least she can handle finding a house. Let's keep this between us for now. As long as we get a good house, that's all that matters. I had no idea such plans were being made behind my back. To think the reason they wanted me married was just for a house. My husband might have other reasons, but it seems like my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are really just in it for the house. Maybe that's why they were so nice before the wedding, and suddenly cold afterwards, pushing him to return home. Now that I've heard this, I can't just let it go. I've decided to divorce my husband. I can't stand the thought that after all the harassment I've endured, they're just looking to benefit themselves. I'm determined to make them regret trying to use me. Keeping these feelings to myself, I pretended I heard nothing and proceeded with the house discussion with my husband. About the new house, is it okay if I make all the decisions? I'll make sure it's suitable for 4 people, so don't worry. You're the realtor, after all. Find us a nice place. My sister said she wants a place with a big yard, and Mom mentioned she wants to get a pet, so please consider that. I see, a house with a big yard and pet-friendly. That shouldn't be a problem since we're looking to buy. But if we want a big yard, it might be a bit rural. That's not a problem at all. Don't worry about it. The family home where Mom and sister live is pretty rural, too. Dad's on assignment and doesn't come home, so it's not an issue. I hadn't heard about your father's assignment. But is it really okay to decide on a house without consulting them? If we're going to live together, shouldn't we discuss it? They trust you because you're a realtor. So, don't worry about them and just go ahead. I'll take responsibility if anything comes up. The house renovation isn't done yet, so no need to worry so much, right? My husband says this, but now that I've heard their conversation, I know they're not really trusting me, they're just trying to use me. Honestly, even though he talks about living with 4 people, I have no intention of doing that. I'll wait for the right moment and then bring his family down. I bet they'll insist on living together once we buy the new house. So, I'm moving forward with my plan, targeting this specific issue. I don't know how it will turn out, but I'm considering various factors as I plan. However, even as I think about these things, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law keep harassing me. My sister-in-law even quit her job right when she came to our house, and now she's asking me for money. Hey, I heard real estate agents make good money, is that true? If it's true, then I can manage it for you. I used to work at a bank, so you can trust me. There's no need for that. My money is safely managed at the bank, but thanks for your concern. You really don't get it. I'm telling you to give me the money quickly. You married my brother, so you owe me at least that. Why should I give you money? If you need money, you should work. I don't understand why you're asking me. We're family now, so it's natural to have one joint account, right? As a first step, you could just leave the money with me. I'll increase it and give it back, so don't worry. Are you planning to gamble again? I've heard from my husband that you do that often. Please don't use my hard-earned money for such things. You really don't understand. Even after explaining so much, you won't give up the money, you're too stingy. If that's how it is, I'll make your husband divorce you. If you love my husband that much, why don't you get money from him? If you can really increase it, I'm sure he'd be happy. Besides, you should be asking him, not me. What are you saying? My brother earns so little, it's sad. You don't understand that? If you keep saying that, I won't forgive you. So, are you saying I'm not pitiful? I really don't understand what you mean. Anyway, I have no intention of giving you any money. After I said this, my sister-in-law seemed to realize she wouldn't get any money from me and left. Even she must have thought there was nothing she could do after being confronted so directly. However, it's really incomprehensible that they would not only try to live at my house but also demand money. The more they stress me out, the more I feel like making a big retaliation. But I didn't expect my sister-in-law to give up so quickly, so I decided to watch for a while. Thinking about all this, the next morning when I checked my purse, I noticed that the money I had put in for the utility bills was gone. Timing-wise, I had to suspect my sister-in-law, so after watching for a while, it turned out she was indeed stealing my money. Not only from the utility bills, but she was also taking money from my wallet. And it's not just my sister-in-law harassing me, my mother-in-law is in on it too. Hasn't the new house been decided yet? If we don't hurry, the renovation here will be finished. I want to move into the new house soon, so please decide quickly. I'm desperately looking, but it's hard to find something suitable. A house that can comfortably fit 4 adults needs to be quite large. There are options if you're okay with something somewhat rural. We'll just go with that then. Let's decide on it. We need to find a place quickly, this house is too cramped. How much longer do you plan to make us feel uncomfortable? Is it really necessary to say that? I was suddenly told we'd be living here, and I've been doing my best to cope. Just hurry up and decide on a house. Make sure we can move in by the week after next. If not, I'll have you divorce my son. Okay, I understand. Normally, such words would be unpleasant, but for me, who is fully intent on divorcing, they couldn't be more welcome. I decided to use what my mother-in-law said and take action. No matter what she said, there was no room for rebuttal. Because it really came from her. So I found a house as they described and discussed it with my husband, who said to put it in his name to look good. If it's in your name, you're paying the down payment, right? We can manage the mortgage together though. The down payment is set low, so it's fine. I just want it in my name in case anything happens. I want to be able to say it's my house no matter what. If that's the case, it's fine. And are you sure you don't need to check anything else about the house? You won't complain after we sign the contract? You've included mom and sister's preferences, right? If so, I won't complain at all. You could check with them just to be sure, but I don't think they'll have any issues. I want to confirm so I'm not blamed if anything comes up. They tend to complain and shift blame quickly, so it's scary. I'll check with them tomorrow, and if it looks good, we'll go ahead with the contract. As long as it's in my name, I'm fine with anything. The 3 of you women can do as you like. Given that, I decided to confirm with the 2 of them to avoid any complaints. They seem to trust me with finding a property since I'm a realtor, so I don't think they'll complain, but I wanted to check just in case. Otherwise, I might get blamed for various things after we move. Thinking this, I went to confirm with them immediately. I've found the next house we'll live in, can you check it? It's the property with a large yard and allows pets as you requested. Though, I think you two will be moving there soon. If it has a large yard, just hurry up with it. I heard you were a competent realtor, but you're too slow. If you care about us, do it faster. If it's bigger than this house, anywhere is fine. But owning a pet has been a dream, so please consider that. Hurry up, this house is too cramped and depressing. I'm actually rushing this. The conditions of a large yard and being pet-friendly are met. So, I'll proceed with the contract for this house. There's no need for all this checking, just hurry up with the contract. How long do you plan to keep us living here? You're really not thoughtful, it's frustrating. Since I've received their confirmation, there should be no grounds for them to complain, regardless of the house. The fact that my husband agreed to pay the down payment while we split the rest of the home purchase cost is a big relief. I've been hoping to reduce my financial burden as much as possible. Usually, we're not this well off, so I think he's getting help from his mother. When I told my husband the contract was completed, my in-laws summoned me. At last you've decided on a house. You really can't get anything done. Well, we'll be living together from now on, so I hope we can get along. Living together, you mean until the renovation is done, right? Oh, didn't I mention it? It's true we are renovating, but we've already sold the old house. We plan to live together permanently from now on. I haven't heard anything about this. Why wouldn't you tell me something so important? If it's true, you absolutely should have mentioned it from the start. It doesn't make much difference whether it's for a short while or forever, right? Just think of it as extending the period a bit. Are you saying you hate living with us that much? I really think you're right, Mom. Is living with my family that awful to you? I can't believe you would say such things. I just feel that my opinions are not being considered at all. It's just too strange, and I don't want to live together. It wouldn't hurt to consider my feelings a bit more. If you really don't want to live with us that much, then we'll have to get a divorce. You wouldn't want that, right? So just live with us and keep doing the household chores. If that's what it takes, I'm prepared to get a divorce. I did love you, but things have been weird lately. Please, feel free to live in the new house without me. Well, that's convenient for us. Sorry, but we'll be happy living just the three of us in the new house without any interference. Everything regarding the contract is complete, so rest assured. All that's left is the house payment and the alimony. Alimony? What are you talking about? I said I'd handled the down payment, but I didn't hear anything about alimony. There are a few things I'd like to claim, but first is your affair. Did you think I hadn't noticed? In fact, when my husband started visiting his parents' home frequently after our marriage, I suspected something and hired a detective. It turned out that when he said he was going home, he was actually going on dates with a coworker. This was only recently discovered, and I thought this would be a good time to bring it up. It seemed like he was unaware of the detective, and I wanted to avoid any deception if I mentioned it before deciding on a divorce. So, I made sure to hire a detective and had them prepare photographic evidence. My husband was incredibly surprised, apparently having no idea I was doing this. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were also unaware and couldn't hide their shock. When I laid out the evidence photos, all three of them were staring intently. I can't believe this is happening. I suspected something, so I had it thoroughly investigated. I thought it was excessive how often you were going back to your parents. A man might have an affair or two. The fact you can't even forgive that shows how petty you are. As for the alimony, I'll be seeking payments from your sister as well. Why should I pay alimony? I haven't cheated on anyone, so I have no obligation to pay. Sister, you were stealing my money, weren't you? The money for the utility bills, the money from my wallet. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Don't talk nonsense without evidence. If it's evidence you need, I have a video I secretly recorded. Oh no. Sis, you borrowed money from me and then did this too. It seems she had told my husband she couldn't borrow from him anymore, but when push came to shove, it appears she did borrow from him after all. My mother-in-law was just standing there, dumbfounded. All I ask is that you handle the alimony and house payments. Since the house is in my husband's name, all payment obligations fall on you. Oh no. After that, the three of them moved to the new house at the address I sent them to. I had just terminated the lease of the house we lived in since it was time for renewal, and I went back to my parents' house. I thought I would feel a bit lonely after the divorce, but having my parents and cat with me, I don't feel that lonely. In fact, I feel refreshed being away from my husband's family. As I was relaxing, a barrage of calls came from my mother-in-law. Judging by the number of missed calls, something must have happened. I think they must have realized the strategy one had set up. To avoid them coming to the house, I decided to answer the phone. What is going on here? You tricked us. Do you think this is okay to do? You seem very upset, but what's wrong? I just found the house you all wanted. Plus, I got your confirmation before signing the contract. The house comes with a ranch and we are told there's an obligation to take care of it. I didn't hear anything about this. What are you going to do about it? The large yard is actually a ranch, and it comes with pets already. Since you don't work, sister, maybe you can take care of them. I just did what you all told me to. How could I possibly take care of cows? What are you joking about? Anyway, we can't live in such a place. It's too late, the contract is in my husband's name. Please live there until you find a new home. I will never forgive you, just be prepared. You all gave me permission when you signed the contract, right? So, no matter what happens, it only works out in my favor. How? When did you do this? Did you know we were trying to use you? I also overheard that conversation. Unfortunately, you'll just have to live there. No way. How come we have to live on a ranch? If there's all the evidence, there's nothing you can do. Indeed, with the evidence presented, no one could argue back. I made sure to get written consent when I asked for their permission, just to be safe. So, they couldn't argue against it. They all signed without suspicion because they were eager to move out. In the end, my husband and his family are living in the country house with a ranch, as I decided, since their previous home was sold. It took time to find a property requiring ranch management, but I'm glad I persisted. I was able to get alimony from my husband and now live a comfortable life at my parents' home. I don't know what will happen next, but I plan to trust only myself. My husband and mother-in-law have called a few times asking for help, but I think they're not worth helping, so I've blocked their calls and only listened to updates from a colleague. I've instructed the colleague to be tough on them, so it seems they'll be living in the ranch house for a while longer. Listen. I've finally got the son I've always wanted. So, I'm divorcing you. My husband happily announced it to me. Son. Typically, when one mentions a son in the context of a husband, it should refer to a son born by his wife. However, I'm not pregnant. On top of that, after giving birth to our first daughter, I've been unable to conceive a son and have felt constant pressure. Now my husband has a son. This clearly means that another woman has borne him a son. Indeed, he brought home a woman in her early 20s and a baby boy only a few months old. I was so shocked by the sudden turn of events that I was left speechless. This is also for the sake of the company. You understand, right? Even mom is thrilled that there's finally a boy. You, with your useless daughter, just get out. The pressure from my husband and mother-in-law to have a son has been there since we got married, and now it seems my husband had an affair because I couldn't produce one. I can endure the abuse directed at me, but my daughter is undoubtedly his child. Yet, he wants to throw us both out, something I absolutely cannot tolerate. However, just as I was about to express my anger, my daughter, who had been silently observing, said something shocking. What she said stunned all the adults present. She would soon send my husband and his mistress plummeting to rock bottom. I am a 40-something part-time employee at a supermarket, juggling work with household and parenting duties. My husband, Ken, also in his 40s, is the executive of a small family-owned printing company. The company is run by his brother, the third-generation CEO. The founder was my mother-in-law's father, and Ken's father took over. As such, my mother-in-law has a strong sense of family pride and has made my life difficult since I married Ken. When a distant aunt, who handled the accounting, fell ill and took a sudden 2-week leave, I offered to help temporarily due to my accounting experience before marriage, but was rejected because I was an outsider in the family business. Honestly, I don't know how far the term family extends. Am I not considered family? Moreover, the discrimination my mother-in-law showed towards her own son was extreme. She doted on Ken excessively and was quite resistant when his brother was set to take over the company. However, it was actually my father-in-law who managed the company, and after observing how the two sons handled work and client relations, my mother-in-law was finally persuaded to let Ken's brother take over. Ken's brother got married in his late 20s and lived with his in-laws as the heir, but they had difficulty conceiving. The pressure from my mother-in-law was tremendous, and his wife was berated daily for not having a son and was continuously insulted for her infertility. By the time she was in her late 40s, it seemed my mother-in-law had given up on grandchildren, but his wife still faced harassment for not having children. Ken's brother always tried to intervene, but my mother-in-law is stubborn and hasn't changed her attitude. Ken and I married around the same time as his brother, and we were in our early 20s at the time, but it wasn't until our late 20s that we had our daughter, Anna. I had been pressured to have children ever since we got married, and I was so stressed I thought I might become neurotic, so I was incredibly happy when I got pregnant. However, once it was confirmed, the next question at every checkup was, when will you know the gender? They only wanted a boy. I will never forget the disappointed looks on my mother-in-law's and Ken's faces when they found out I was having a girl. My mother-in-law, despite being told repeatedly that it was a girl, prepared boys' clothes and even tried to pick a boy's name on her own, doing unbelievable things. Gradually, I began to feel like a failure for not being able to have a boy, and I unjustly blamed my unborn child for not being a boy. But that changed the day I first felt the baby move. The moment I felt the baby's presence inside me, I resolved to protect it at all costs, no matter what. The harassment from my mother-in-law continued, and even on the day I gave birth, Ken didn't come to the hospital, and I gave birth to Anna alone. After being discharged from the hospital, the first time my mother-in-law saw my daughter, she said, "Next time, have a boy," and didn't look at her any further. Life became even harder after my daughter, Anna, was born. While I was struggling with the care of an infant and household chores, barely sleeping, Ken didn't help at all. Moreover, a month after giving birth, he demanded a son next time. I was too exhausted from childcare to have the strength to agree, and when I refused, he became sulky and it was really troublesome. As Anna grew, and because we didn't conceive again, Ken gradually became colder, and now that Anna is in high school, they hardly talk at all. Ken and my mother-in-law didn't participate in any of Anna's ceremonies. Ken even forgot his own daughter's birthday, went out drinking, and sometimes came home completely drunk. Anna and I would wait for hours in front of a fancy dinner and cake, hoping for him to come home. It was heartbreaking to see her like that. Growing up hearing, "Girls are useless and it's a waste of money to spend on a girl," from Ken and my mother-in-law, it was natural that Anna didn't grow close to them, and now Ken is just a housemate to us. Meanwhile, since my brother-in-law and his wife had no hope of conceiving, my mother-in-law pressured me in my early 40s, saying it was my last chance to have a boy. Given our age and the fact that our marriage was already failing, it was impossible to try for another child. And if by some chance it was another girl, I couldn't think of having any more children with Ken. I'm so tired of being told the same thing for years. At that time, the management of the company where Ken was the executive worsened, and his salary was significantly reduced. Being a director, his salary was cut more than that of regular employees. The cause was a dispute with a major client, and the contract was terminated. Ken blamed his incompetent brother for his troubles and didn't seem worried even in this emergency. Losing a major client could be a crisis level for a small printing company, but does he not feel the urgency? Our household income was unavoidably reduced. I tried to help out with our finances and asked Ken about becoming a full-time employee since there was a chance at my current job to move from part-time to full-time. However, Ken strongly opposed it. He said it would neglect home responsibilities and there would be a loss of face for him, essentially meaning women should just quietly obey men. But if things continue as they were, we would barely manage to pay rent and utility bills, let alone provide for Anna's allowance or her commuting costs. Considering this, perhaps his pride was hurt, but Ken turned red and said that until his salary returned to normal, Anna would get no allowance and should either walk or cycle to school. Since cycling wasn't an option due to the distance, Anna, seeing my dilemma, started working part-time at a cafe to earn her own money. I was proud of my strong daughter, yet felt nothing but irritation towards the prideful Ken. Although opposed by Ken, I couldn't take any overt actions, but I talked about my situation and managed to get some work I could do from home to increase our income. Amid this stretched financial situation, suddenly Ken brought home a flashy woman in her late 20s and a baby boy a few months old. The woman's name was Lily, and the baby was said to be Ken and Lily's child. The two had met through a business acquaintance and had been having an affair for a year and a half. It was around the time the company's performance began to decline, and amidst the crisis, Ken was infatuated with Lily. Although his salary had drastically dropped, it turned out he was spending what little money came home on dates and gifts for Lily. Not even providing for his own daughter's necessary expenses while she struggled working part-time. He was truly a hopeless man. We were utterly dismayed. Honestly, even knowing I had been betrayed, I couldn't even cry. Because I have a son now, I'm going to remarry Lily. I'm divorcing you, so take your useless daughter and get lost. This is also for the company. Even Mom is happy that a son has been born. Ken said triumphantly to Anna and me. Lily comes from a wealthy corporate family, and marrying her would mean financial support for the company. Moreover, Lily has 2 brothers, each with sons, so there's no need for her to take over a company, allowing her to have the best of both worlds. My mother-in-law is pleased with the wealthy fiancé and is urging them to remarry soon. Depending on the financial support from Lily's family, they plan to replace the CEO from Ken's brother to Ken. Moreover, they say they have no use for a daughter-in-law who can't bear sons or for female grandchildren, and want us to leave. I'm really sorry. But he is such a precious boy, and my mother-in-law agrees, so please understand. Ken and Lily laughed condescendingly at us and ordered us to leave the house quickly. In any case, I can't go on with him anymore, so divorce or whatever is fine. But it's frustrating to think why we must endure this treatment, and I bit my lip in anger. Such a father, I felt sorry for Anna. Then, Anna, who had been silently observing, spoke up. I know it's strange for me to say this, but you should rethink marrying him. I mean, well, it's fine if you really want him as your dad. Anna hesitated as she started to say something. Her way of opposing the remarriage seemed different, but Ken didn't notice and got furious at her words. What? What are you being so cheeky about? Anna silently met Ken's gaze and then sighed deeply before speaking. That woman, she's always all over a college boy at my workplace. It's the talk among the employees. Anna had known about Lily for some time. Lily was a regular at the cafe where Anna worked, often visiting with a boy, behaving like lovers. Lily tends to be quite rude to the cafe staff, never looking them in the face when ordering, so she probably didn't recognize Anna. Hearing this, Ken seemed quite shaken. That must be a cousin she's tutoring. But to be honest, it's hard to believe Lily could tutor a student. It seemed like a far-fetched interpretation to me. Yes, that's right. He's a cousin, though he's a bit younger. Lily agreed hastily with Ken, sounding flustered. She seemed to be hiding something she didn't want known. Right, a cousin. Then surely you know that this boy actually has a serious girlfriend, a classmate with long hair? Hearing this, Lily was visibly shocked and began to unravel. What? His main girlfriend? What are you talking about? Lily snapped at Anna, her words becoming disjointed. Beside her, Ken was turning pale. What a terrible farce. Watching this scene, I felt it was unbearable. Anna continued calmly. I don't know if he's a cousin or whatever, but this cousin told his friends that you're just someone he's seeing for sugar dating. What? Don't mess with me. Stop spouting nonsense. Lily lost her composure completely, her speech becoming erratic. Seeing Lily's bloodshot eyes, I worried that she might harm Anna. But Anna remained calm. So, that baby, is it really the boy's? What? It's not my child? What? No! It's Ken's child! I was even surprised that Anna knew so much. As the noise continued, Lily became increasingly flustered and eventually fell silent. Ken was still visibly distressed. I decided to remain calm like Anna and pressed for the truth. After a while, Lily seemed to resign herself and began to speak in bits and pieces. The child was probably the result of her relationship with the student. She had pretended to break up with him because her father found out and scolded her. She met Ken around that time and used him as a cover boyfriend, planning to raise the student's child as Ken's. Lily prefers younger men, and Ken was not really her type at all. It seemed she had completely used him. She was seriously involved with the student. Learning that she was being referred to as a sugar dating partner, Lily became disheartened and quieted down. At that moment, the baby she was holding began to cry. Can you handle that issue yourself? I have no fond memories of being pampered by Dad, so I agree with the divorce. I'll live with Mom. With that, Anna coldly turned away from Ken. Lily was no longer in a state to discuss anything, but the baby started fussing, so she was urged to go home, and the day ended with everyone dispersing. Lily cried all the way home, not soothing or caring for the baby. I felt sympathy for the baby, seeing Lily unable to feel any motherly instincts. Ken, unable to stay at home, decided to return to his parents' house for the time being. A few days later, Ken came home alone. Firstly, it turned out that the child was indeed not Ken's. After our discussion, they conducted a DNA test, which proved that there was no parental relationship between Ken and the child. It's unclear whether the child is Lily's and the student's, but it's undeniable that Ken was merely used. Ken has apparently broken up with Lily. Lily truly loved the student and wanted to have and raise his child, but opposed by her father and unwilling to ruin the future of a promising student, she decided to pretend the child was Ken's and planned to marry and raise him. She intended to divorce Ken once the student started his career and remarry him. Moreover, her relationship with the student started when he was still in high school. She had been involved with him since he was a minor. Because Lily was the daughter of a corporate magnate, she feared public exposure for getting involved with a minor at the time, so one reason she got involved with Ken was to camouflage this. Knowing that Ken had no real affection, I felt a sense of schadenfreude as I listened to the story. For the student, the relationship with Lily was purely for financial gain. He didn't care about her feelings. It was only because he was receiving money that he didn't break it off. In fact, he didn't work part-time but was financially supported by Lily, while he had a serious girlfriend at college and enjoyed his student life. When confronted by Lily, the student candidly admitted, "Why would I be serious about an old lady? I just hung out with her occasionally because she supported me. It's just sugar dating." Furthermore, despite having a child, they eventually lost contact. Abandoned by the student, Lily became despondent, unable to engage in any activity, and neglected her childcare duties. The house was in disarray, the baby cried continuously, seemingly not even properly fed. Unable to stand the thought of the child possibly dying, Lily's eldest brother and his wife temporarily took the baby to care for it. Now that Ken had broken up with Lily, he came begging, wanting to start over with me. Moreover, my mother-in-law also said that young wives can't control their desires, so it's no good. She urged me to have a son soon, while I'm still in my early 40s. What opportunistic people they are. I refuse. I will leave this house immediately, so go ahead and remarry or do whatever you want. I firmly refused. Please, think about what will happen to my life and the company. I was deceived. Ken pleaded for help, seemingly forgetting how he had treated me all this time. He's truly hopeless. I have been ostracized by your mother for not being family for years. And recently, you called Anna and me useless, remember? It's better not to be together if we're useless. That's not true. I was deceived by Lily, and now I realize that family is the most important thing. It might be late, but let's try for a son again. Still talking about having another son at this point? Do you really think you can be a family with Anna and me again, after all this time focusing only on yourself and never valuing us? Anna and I think the same. Despite his daughter's presence, Ken started crying and kept repeating, "What's going to happen to my life?" Anna was thoroughly disgusted with him. Dad, you're really creepy. Who cares about your life? Don't you realize what you've done? Is Anna really giving up on me too? Grandma didn't mean any harm, and she really loves Anna. Let's live together as a family. I'm sorry, but I can't consider you and Grandma as family anymore. From now on, I'm cutting off our relationship. Take care with Grandma. Ken only sobbed harder in response. Although Ken was initially reluctant to agree to a divorce, his brother and sister-in-law intervened, and a divorce was eventually finalized. I wasn't very familiar with the company matters, but it turned out that Ken had angered an important client and caused a loss. Ken's arrogant behavior had been problematic several times before, and he had ruined several deals. His brother had repeatedly cautioned him, but his haughty attitude persisted, causing trouble whenever he visited clients. Recently, he had been relegated to just answering phones, but even then, he managed to anger a client. Longtime clients, who had been lenient until now, finally reached their limit and terminated their contracts. Oblivious Ken was busy having an affair with Lily during this critical period. His brother had been working for months to mend relations with clients. Through various efforts and by agreeing to fire Ken, he finally obtained the client's consent to resume business after a year and a half. The clients acknowledged his brother's persistent efforts and promised even larger orders now that Ken was no longer with the company, considering it more trustworthy. His brother did not hesitate to fire Ken. Ken had boasted that his brother was incompetent and that he was always covering for him, but in reality, it was his brother who was busy covering for Ken. Ken would visit clients and then not return, going out, or smoking and littering in the client's parking lot, causing problems even during ongoing issues due to his own actions. His brother had quite a challenge handling him, and finding the right timing, he finally decided to let him go. Thanks to his brother's efforts, the company escaped bankruptcy, but Ken ended up unemployed. Having never really worked properly and always boasting, Ken had no real skills. He tried to find a job through acquaintances, but given his past work attitude and his arrogant behavior towards clients, no one was willing to hire him. Also, given his age, reemployment was not easy, and he now seems to be struggling, juggling several part-time jobs to make ends meet. As for my mother-in-law, the stress from the company issues and the fact that Lily's child was not Ken intensified her harassment of her daughter-in-law. Finally, her daughter-in-law fell ill and was hospitalized. Despite relying on her brother-in-law and his wife, my mother-in-law maintained her arrogant attitude, saying about her daughter-in-law who was hospitalized, "I don't care what happens to a daughter-in-law who can't bear her own children and isn't family." This enraged his brother so much that he eventually kicked her out of the house. My mother-in-law never thought her usually mild-mannered son would kick her out and only started to apologize after being expelled, but it was too late. With nowhere else to go, she ended up moving into Ken's room. They are apparently living together in a small place. Having never worked because she was a lady of leisure, my mother-in-law can't start working now, and it seems they are living on Ken's meager income. However, her unchanged spending habits are consuming Ken's income, leading to constant arguments. Furthermore, with no daughter-in-law to harass, she has become even more interfering in Ken's life. She repeatedly tells Ken it looks bad, so you should reconcile. It's better for your daughter to have her father around. Don't separate due to adult issues. You should let your wife work full-time and manage the finances. Ken seems exasperated by these incessant demands. Financially struggling, I added to Ken's troubles by demanding child support. Ken was quite flustered, not expecting it. At first, he insisted he couldn't pay, but after realizing through a lawyer that this wouldn't hold up, he contacted me directly. With limited income and living with a spendthrift mother, he tearfully phoned me, asking if there was any way to reduce the amount or arrange a payment plan. I've left everything to my lawyer, and considering how they've looked down on us before, I have no intention of accommodating any requests. Anna also said we should get what we are owed. We shouldn't be at a loss. Dad also shouldn't have it easy. She's a very sensible daughter. Given Ken's precarious financial situation, it seems unlikely he can pay, but I intend to have him pay the full amount over however many years it takes. Lily, who was nearly cut ties in a rage, has been allowed to stay at her parents' home under strict supervision, with her child, due to concerns about her potentially causing more trouble with minors. She was initially unmanageable, but now seems to be settling down and somewhat managing childcare. The college student was also demanded to pay child support by Lily. At first, he dodged the responsibility and even became unreachable, but Lily's father brought a lawyer to the student's family home. The student's parents were furious upon learning that their son had engaged in sugar dating, impregnated the woman, and then ignored her. They apologized profusely to Lily's side, but the student himself seemed unrepentant. Frustrated, the lawyer warned that making an enemy of a corporate CEO could jeopardize his career prospects after graduating from a prestigious university, which might render his education meaningless. Reluctantly, the student agreed to pay child support. Worried about their social standing, his parents convinced him to let them initially cover the child support, which he would repay through his earnings from part-time jobs and eventual employment. Having previously earned through sugar dating without working, the student is now desperately working at a low-paying job, most of his earnings going towards repayment. I have secured full-time employment, and my salary has increased. My job is more fulfilling than ever, and though not wealthy, I now earn enough for Anna and me to live comfortably on our own. Anna continues to work part-time at the cafe and helps significantly with household chores, making our life much easier without Ken, who was nothing but a burden when he was around. Now that we don't have to deal with my sarcastic mother-in-law, Anna smiles more and lives more freely. Going forward, we want to live happily in our own way, just the two of us. You're in there, aren't you? Open up. Give me a break. I was just enjoying my new place. Open the door. I didn't want to be a nuisance to the neighbors, so I reluctantly opened the front door. You're infertile and you're still leaving the house. I don't acknowledge you as a daughter-in-law. My husband, his mistress, and my mother-in-law were all standing there. Huh? For the sake of the new wife and the grandchild that's on the way, we'll take this house as compensation. Please leave. Yeah, get out already. That's right, infertile woman, thanks for everything. Oh, they really say whatever they want, don't they? They don't even realize they're mistaken. My name is Michelle. I'm a 43-year-old office worker. My husband, Stephen, is a year younger than me. We don't have children. We thought it would happen naturally, but we weren't blessed. After many discussions, we chose to live just the two of us. I don't regret it. The apartment we've lived in since we got married is small and old, but it's not inconvenient. Saving money for our own home and living modestly is enjoyable. Recently at work, I was assigned to the planning department, which I had always hoped for. The hard work I put in at the sales department paid off. I got a raise and became someone who's relied upon in the company. It's not an exaggeration to say that my job is my passion, especially since I have no children. But it seems my husband feels differently. Huh? You quit your job again? Yeah. What, you didn't discuss it with me? I was so shocked I couldn't speak. My boss was being annoying because I refused a transfer. So you quit because of that? Technically, yes, but I'm the victim here. It's wrongful termination. I sighed. Then you should sue and claim compensation. Nah, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I know the truth. He wasn't wrongfully terminated. This is just one of my husband's bad habits. He can't stick to a job. It's not that he's unserious, but he just suddenly gets fed up and quits. It's become normal for him to change jobs every 2 or 3 years, but each time, it disrupts our budget and lifestyle, which is exhausting. As his partner, I can't just tell him to endure a job he hates. But we're both in our 40s now. In moments like this, I think it's good we don't have kids. I can be the one to support us. And I hope he would do the same for me if something happened. I knew it, but his job search wasn't going well, and time was just passing by. The timing was bad, and surely age and his career history were issues. He was getting frustrated. He would just sit at home all day, not doing any housework, constantly sighing. If he has time, he could at least tidy up the mess he made in the room. I have more right to be frustrated than you. Maybe I should give him a piece of my mind. In times like this, it's tough when the house is small, there's no escape. Let's calm down. Fighting won't do us any good. I held back my urge to blame him and just kept an eye on him. Finally, he got a job as a contract worker at a factory. It wasn't what he hoped for, but it's better than being unemployed. Let's start trying again, bit by bit. Together, we'll surely be okay. Then one day, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? Michelle? What's the matter, Mom? I heard you've been cold to Stephen. Huh? I let out a surprised exclamation. I couldn't guess what she was talking about. You're being harsh on Stephen, who's hurt from being wrongfully terminated, aren't you? Hold on. I don't recall doing anything like that. What do you mean? That's what I want to know. Pushing you to work or to clean up, you've been harsh, haven't you? Why would it come to that? Indeed, I did say things like hope you find a job soon and please pick up the stuff you left out, indirectly. But it was never in a commanding tone. This is also one of my husband's bad habits. Whenever something happens, he immediately runs to his mother. And he even exaggerates the story. I think it's bad that his mother takes it all at face value, but I wonder when he'll ever grow up. That's too much. Stephen wouldn't blame you, would he? Well, there's no reason for him to. What are you saying, Michelle? You deserve to be blamed. It's your fault we don't have children. Huh? Isn't there something more important than work? Regret won't bring anything back. Why is the lack of children being blamed on me? It seems my husband is making up some very convenient stories. Even though we decided together, I feel betrayed. He may want to save face, but getting his mother on his side to treat me like the villain is like a child's spite. We're a couple who will spend a lot more time together, so we shouldn't lose trust. With that in mind, I decided to talk to him that night. Please don't exaggerate things to your mother. If you have complaints, I want you to tell me directly, for the sake of our future. Let's both do that, okay? My husband, clearly annoyed, started fiddling with his smartphone in the middle of our conversation. Hey, listen to me. Quiet, I'm getting work calls. Saying that, he got up from his seat. He didn't return to our conversation and just went straight to the bedroom. Was he in a bad mood or just tired from working at the factory? It can't be helped. We'll talk another time. But the next day, he refused to talk, saying he was tired and sleepy. The following day, he came home in the morning from a company welcome party. He spent the whole holiday sleeping off a hangover. After that, he was out late every night due to overtime and dinner with colleagues. Clearly avoiding me. Trying to let it all fade away, but that won't solve the problem. I hate being unfairly blamed by his mother. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I wait for my husband's return. It's a problem that shouldn't be postponed just because it's troublesome. Around the time the date changes, my husband comes home in a great mood, humming a tune. Welcome back.
Whoa! You scared me!
What's going on? Surprised, huh? Were you awake? I was waiting for Stephen. Huh? My husband looked annoyed. Why are you avoiding this? Stop nagging me. You've been acting strange lately.
You're so persistent. If you have something to say, just leave a note.
A note? Was the deal to settle things without talking? Yeah. Can't believe you remember such old stuff. You really are persistent. I was stunned. Did he forget our marriage vows? I said a couple should understand each other, and he agreed with me.
I used to like you're diligent, but now it's inflexible and burdensome.
That's harsh. If you don't want to lose me, you better change your attitude. There are other women out there. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. Are you cheating? I had suspicions about his recent behavior.
You're kidding, right? What have I done? I told you, you're being too clingy. Do you want a divorce?
Don't say that. My husband clicked his tongue. He pulled a paper out of his bag and shoved it at me roughly. It was a completed divorce form. Why do you have this? I was asked to write it. By whom? You know who. No, I don't understand. There's another woman who wants me to file it. I was at a loss for words. Had my husband written the divorce form at his mistress's request?
Now that you understand, don't get cocky. You're nothing without me, so know your place.
I gripped the divorce form with trembling hands. I could hear my heartbeat. What time do you think it is? I'm going to sleep. You go somewhere and cool off. My husband disappeared into the bedroom. I stared at my husband's name written on the divorce papers. What was he feeling when he wrote this? Was he late today because he was meeting his mistress? I, who had supported him in his new job, must have looked like such a foolish wife. I got confusing, and I felt dizzy. I couldn't think of anything. Just as he said, I needed to cool off. I silently grabbed my valuables and essentials and left the house without a word. 1 month later. I hadn't been home since then. I tried to contact my husband a few times, but there was no reply. This room is quiet and comfortable. It feels peaceful. The sunlight pours through the windows, brightly illuminating the still empty living room. The ventilation is good too. When the cold air touches my cheek, I can't help but take a deep breath, and the scent of wood seeps in. Then, Michelle, I know you're in there. Open up. An annoying voice called out, and I frowned. This piercing voice was my mother-in-law's. I really wished she would give me a break. I was enjoying a peaceful moment.
Michelle!
I didn't want to cause a disturbance to the neighbors, so I reluctantly opened the front door. With a clearly annoyed expression.
I knew you were here. It's been a while.
My mother-in-law said happily. She tried to barge in, so I pushed her back. Wait a minute, please. What's wrong? What happened? Hey, can you see my face? I'm rejecting you, okay? Well, this place isn't bad at all. Behind her, for some reason, my husband was there. And who was that young woman standing next to him? It smells like a new house, nice. It's nice, isn't it? All three of them naturally tried to enter the house. Their audacity knew no bounds.
Wait a minute. How did you find out where I am?
What do you mean how? First, answer my question. Why do you always treat Stephen so badly? Huh? Leaving everything behind and running away from home, that's the worst a wife could be. Just because you don't like Dorothy here. Dorothy? Oh, this young woman. I see, she's approved by my mother-in-law. Wait a minute? Did I run away from home? I thought it was more like my husband telling me where to go, like he was kicking me out. My husband stood provocatively close to the young woman, looking at me challengingly. The number of rooms is just right, and the interior design is decent. I guess I can forgive you for buying a new house on your own. Huh? But living together is out of the question. After all, your infertility makes for a bad image. Excuse me, what are you talking about?
You should be grateful that I stayed with you this long.
Huh? I was bewildered and tilted my head in confusion. Stephen, I am tired and wants to sit down. That's right, sorry Dorothy. Michelle, let Dorothy sit inside the house. No way.
Huh? Dorothy is pregnant with Stephen's child.
Pregnant? That was news to me. Yet, surprisingly, I wasn't much shaken. Why is that? Maybe it's because the shock of continuous events has made reality unbelievable. Or perhaps I just don't feel anything anymore. Pregnant women should be respected, right? I guess you wouldn't understand that, Michelle. Oh, is that so?
Don't you get it? I acknowledge Dorothy as the wife, not you, Michelle. We'll take this house as compensation, so get out.
Yeah, get out already. That's right, thanks for nothing, barren lady. How could they say such things? Unaware of their own misunderstandings. I can't just give you this house as compensation. Even if you tell me to leave, this house is in my name. Huh? We're already divorced, you know? What? My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. Is it really such a surprise? Weren't you the ones who handed me the filled-out divorce papers? Michelle, what do you mean? Weren't you planning to start a new life with us?
I had no such intention.
The mother-in-law panicked and my husband was furious. What are you talking about?
I bought this house with my own money.
Huh? Incredible. They probably haven't read a single one of the emails I sent. You really didn't know anything, did you? The night my husband handed me the divorce papers. All the endurance I had maintained as a wife suddenly vanished, filled with a sense of liberation. I was so happy that I couldn't think of anything else. Wait, does this mean my free life is about to begin? When I realized this, I got so excited I felt dizzy. While feeling thrilled, I signed the wife section of the divorce papers and submitted them to the public office first thing the next morning. I divided our savings equally and transferred half to my husband's account. Considering what I had earned, I believe most of the savings were rightfully mine, but I wanted to avoid any disputes. I suggest we communicate through lawyers from now on, I informed him via email. With half of the savings we split and the bonus I received afterward, I made a down payment on a new house. The rest was covered by a loan. A loan? How can a housewife possibly get a loan? My husband said condescendingly. Well, if you kept changing jobs, of course, you wouldn't be able to get a loan. Huh? You wouldn't know since you don't manage the finances, but my salary is twice what you make. His face turned red with rage, possibly wounded in his pride. Even Dorothy seemed taken aback by this. Stephen, this isn't what you told me. You said we'd live in a new luxury home, right? Oh, calm down, Dorothy. My husband was pitifully flustered. Well, he's my ex-husband now. I had been the one supporting our finances all along. It's ridiculous to think I would live with his new wife and mother-in-law.
Michelle!
My mother-in-law seemed ready to explode with anger.
This is fraud. Mom, who wrote the divorce papers first? And who encouraged him to write them? It was that lady over there, your future daughter-in-law, who will support you. And congratulations on the upcoming grandchild. No, we'll take the house as well.
My mother-in-law was breathing heavily in arrogance. She is incredibly arrogant. That's not possible. It's such a big house, it's a waste for just you, Michelle, isn't it? I plan to live here with my parents eventually. What? What is this daughter-in-law talking about? No, I'm no longer your daughter-in-law, we have no relation. And who knows, maybe I'll have another wonderful encounter. Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud. What are we going to do? I was all set to live in this house. The mother-in-law slumped her shoulders. What happened to the apartment you were living in, Mom? I sold that old place. You sold it? Yes, when I happened to see you moving appliances into this new house, I immediately contacted Stephen and he invited me to live with you all. So that was the situation. That means the only thing left is the small, old house I used to live in. Not that I feel sympathy for them. Unlike you, Michelle, who is a tough career woman, we now have a young and docile daughter-in-law and a grandchild on the way, and we thought we'd be secure with a new house in the future. I wish she'd stop speaking ill of people while looking so pitiful. Who's tough? I had to be strong because my husband was so pathetic. Oh, what a letdown. But I'll go home and tell everything to Daddy. Dorothy seemed to have given up. Huh? Wait, that's too bad. If Daddy gets angry, it's going to be a big problem. You better take responsibility. Dorothy, please, anything but that. As for why my husband got such a young girl pregnant, it turned out she was an office assistant at his company and things just went too far after a drinking party, and it happened in one time. He thought she was just an employee, but she turned out to be the daughter of the factory manager. Raised in a girls' school, this lady, despite her flashy looks, had zero experience with men. It turns out my husband was her first, and she didn't know he was married. Believing the classic cheater's line, "My wife and I have grown apart, we'll be divorcing soon," she went out of her way to prepare the divorce papers for him. It sounds like she'll make a very considerate wife. Good for you. Congratulations. Well, that's the situation. You all can do as you please now. Wait. I felt a chill as my ex-husband clung to the door, trying to keep me from closing it. Michelle. Don't you have any maternal instincts? What do you think this new life coming into the world is? Michelle, if you can't give us alimony, we'll take this house as a birth gift instead. To my desperate ex-husband and former mother-in-law, I said with a broad smile. Congratulations, goodbye. I mercilessly closed and locked the door. I planned to leave it to my lawyer. But it wasn't going to be that easy. After all, these are the kind of people who shamelessly demand someone's house. They won't back down easily. I can ignore further emails filled with resentment from my ex-husband by simply replying, "Please contact my lawyer." However, the real problem is my mother-in-law. She leaves long messages on the voicemail, which are truly annoying. Because of Michelle, I've become a homeless old woman. Could you at least arrange another apartment for me? This house is too cramped and suffocating. When I told my daughter-in-law to do some housework, she just said, "You do it." What am I supposed to do now? I would like to delete these voicemails immediately, but they might be useful, so I decide to save them. Their demands might escalate. They are shamelessly audacious, after all. One day, an unwelcome visitor arrived at my house. Without any prior notice, the doorbell rang, and I gripped my smartphone, wondering if it was my ex-husband or mother-in-law and if I should prepare to call the police. At the door stood a man with a stern look and sharp eyes. I was on guard. He seemed vaguely familiar, but I was sure I didn't know such an intimidating man. Could this be some sort of scam disguised as a door-to-door sale? Who might you be? I'm Smith, the factory manager. Then it hit me. Dorothy's father, the factory manager. That's right, she had mentioned telling Daddy. And there they were, my ex-husband and Dorothy, peeking from behind him, grinning. They brought some tough-looking backup. Daddy, tell her. Sir, please teach her a lesson. The factory manager's lips formed a thin line, his brow furrowed deeply, clearly very angry. I worried he might demand nuisance fees or birth costs. As I was about to resolve to call the police, looking at my smartphone. This is most regrettable. What? The factory manager shouted to me. I am terribly sorry. Then, he grabbed my ex-husband and Dorothy and forced them to apologize. Apologize. More. Okay. Daddy? Why? This wasn't the plan. I stared in bewilderment. What on earth was happening? Don't get it twisted.
I brought them here to apologize to you.
What?
I truly apologize. My daughter took your husband and even demanded your house.
Yes, that's correct. My ex-husband and Dorothy began to panic. Daddy, you knew? Yes, I knew. All the things you told me about being deceived and having your home taken, were those all lies? Where did you hear that?
Your mother told me everything.
The factory manager, his face contorted with anger. He explained that the former mother-in-law had attempted to seduce him, saying, "We're family now, let's get along well in many ways. Your daughter stole my son. We should be able to manage just as well. Just buy me an apartment and that'll be fine. Visit whenever you like." Of course, the factory manager politely refused. I was speechless with disgust. To think this woman was my mother-in-law. You always tell convenient stories. I'm disappointed in you and your mother. Oh, come on. I've always been faithful to my wife. Don't joke around. Stop it, Daddy, you're scaring me.
You too.
What?
I've spoiled you too much because you're my precious only daughter. Both of you are no longer needed at my factory. There's a very strict workplace, so go there and start over.
What? The factory manager turned to me after addressing my ex-husband. Can you forgive us now? Yes. Why would you go to such lengths? I hope we can still have a good relationship moving forward. I was completely baffled and stared back him. Then, it dawned on me. Yes, a long time ago, he was the head of the administration department at a company I used to deal with during my sales days. I'm terribly sorry, I didn't recognize you. Now it was my turn to apologize. There's been a merger, and I manage the new plant now. It's understandable you didn't recognize me. I see. I couldn't believe your husband was working at my plant initially. The factory manager looked away, making a troubled face. Has my former husband been causing you trouble? His work attitude is poor, he doesn't learn, and he has unexcused absences. Quite the opposite of his competent wife. Imagining my ex-husband's irresponsible demeanor, I wasn't surprised. As I was no longer his wife, I had neither the need to defend nor apologize for him. All I could do was give a wry smile. I plan to retrain him from scratch. I definitely won't let him near here again. My ex-husband shrank, and Dorothy looked displeased. You were always great at training new recruits, weren't you? Yes, I was quite strict and thorough. I'll be supporting from afar. Even with the factory manager's efforts, reforming my ex-husband seemed unlikely. Ultimately, he must make the effort to change himself. Especially for the sake of the innocent baby on the way. There's one thing I regret. I wanted to correct the misconception that infertility was my fault. We had once gone to the hospital together to check on the cause of our infertility. There was no issue on my part, but my husband was diagnosed with azoospermia. Natural conception wasn't impossible but was said to be difficult. That Dorothy got pregnant from just one slip-up with my ex-husband was either a miracle, they were incredibly compatible, or maybe the child wasn't his daughter. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter to me anymore. The factory manager updated me while contacting me about work. He told me that they ended up living in that old, cramped house for a while. They had promised to save for the baby and to seriously try working as part of their future cohabitation conditions, but Dorothy quickly couldn't stand that lifestyle. No surprise there. Stephen probably didn't realize, since I managed our finances, but living on his income alone would be barely feasible, if not impossible. If 3 adults lived freely without saving, the savings I gave him during our divorce would be gone in no time. Dorothy went back to her parents' home after giving birth and never returned. During that time, my ex-husband grew to hate his job and quit. The desperate former mother-in-law started causing trouble, demanding her daughter-in-law and grandchild back, insisting they take care of her, which led to police involvement at the factory manager's home. Pathetic. They're all too selfish. But since I'm no longer involved, I declined further updates. Hang in there, Mr. Smith. My new home is very comfortable. Being alone can be lonely and I worry about what I would do if I got sick, but I've never felt it was good to have a husband at home. Living alone now feels no different than before. I believed that spouses should support each other, but it turned out he was just leaning on me. Having an unnecessary person gone doesn't trouble me at all. 7 years later. My well-settled home now also houses my parents, whom I called from the countryside. And a former colleague from the sales department lives with us too. He was the man who always competed with me for the top sales position. After I moved to the planning department, the competition dwindled, and he mentioned missing seeing my face. The feeling was mutual. After he learned I was divorced, he immediately asked me out, and now he has become a husband I truly trust. We've worked together for many years and can say anything to each other without holding back. A truly ideal man. Here's to many more years together. Would you take Yvonne and Kelly? What? Mireille laughed lightly, then continued in her usual calm tone. Guess it's hard to remarry with kids in tow, Mireille said, chuckling loudly. I'll leave the kids with developmental disorder to the poor old lady who didn't finish school. I couldn't believe it as a mother myself, not only looking down on me but also calling her own daughters such names and trying to push them away without any regrets. Honestly, I wanted to slap her glittering, made-up cheeks. But doing that would probably just give her a way to use it against me. I will take care of them. It was hard for me to even say that. Even if she is the real mother of Yvonne and Kelly, I would be better than such a selfish person. In place of Kengo who passed away, to pour endless love on them and make them happy. I swore to myself. I am Natalie Smith, a 56-year-old housewife. Since my husband passed away from illness the other day, I have been living alone in this big house. I never thought I would be widowed so soon. The separation came so suddenly that I can't even find the motivation to do any housework. It seems he was concerned about me. My eldest son Ken, who lives in the same city, came up with this suggestion.
If you're okay with it, Mom, why don't we live together? Yvonne and Kelly would be thrilled.
Yvonne and Kelly are Ken's twin daughters, my dear granddaughters. I was genuinely happy about Ken's suggestion. But I knew it was impossible. Because for some reason, Mireille, Ken's wife, doesn't like me.
Thank you. That's enough for me. Sorry to worry you.
If we were to discuss living together, Mireille would surely be vehemently against it. Even if she accepted, a clash would be inevitable at some point. I can't cause trouble between my eldest son and his wife because of me. If I stay down too long, I'll make Ken worried again. I have to pull myself together. I somehow managed to motivate myself and gradually got back to my daily routine. They must have been concerned about me, still. My eldest son's family visited our house often. Of course, without Mireille. Mireille is busy. Ken said hesitantly, but I figured she probably just didn't want to come.
Grandma, let's draw together. I can draw nicely 'cause I am 8 years old.
Well, this should be fun. I feel sorry for Mireille. But the time with my dear grandkids and Ken was a lot of fun. The following weekend, as usual, my eldest son's family came over. I opened the door with a smile and froze. Unusually, Mireille was among them. Mireille, good of you to come. Thank you. I smiled, surprised, and Mireille nodded silently with a stern face. She clearly looked displeased, but then why did she come? Maybe she's here to complain that I've been letting Ken and the kids come over too much. I've relied on Ken's kindness too much. When we're alone, I need to tell Ken, you don't have to come anymore. That's what I was thinking, but it's hard to find the right moment to talk to Ken.
Daddy, come here.
Dad. Yvonne took Kelly's pen. Ken seems busy settling a fight between Yvonne and Kelly. As a grandmother, a little mischief from the grandkids is cute, but it's tough on the parents. Remembering my own parenting days, I can't help but smile. Next to me, Mireille muttered. What about the inheritance? What? Caught off guard by the unexpected question, I blinked, and Mireille repeated in a slightly irritated tone. So it's about my father-in-law's inheritance. When am I gonna get my share? Inheritance? I didn't know how to respond. After all, I had already given Ken, my eldest son, his share. Hasn't Ken told you? I already handed it over. As I carefully chose my words, Mireille's expression grew even more irritated, and she raised her voice. I only got Ken's portion. I'm asking when I'll get mine. I've waited long enough, so I had to come and get it myself. Life insurance, savings, stocks. Didn't Dad save up a lot? Mireille said this, arms crossed and frowning. But I'm the one who should be frowning. Mireille, my eldest son's wife, shouldn't even have a share. We weren't close while my husband was alive. We only met mostly on holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving. Even when my eldest son's family came to visit, it was mostly without Mireille. Unless it was mentioned in my husband's will, it's hard to imagine he made provisions for Mireille, whom we hardly knew. Look, Mireille. I'm sorry, but as a daughter-in-law, you don't have a share in the inheritance. Huh? Really? Even though I'm his daughter? Where does her confidence come from? Mireille looked genuinely shocked. She never cared for her father-in-law or did anything daughter-like, yet I'm the one surprised. Even though you say daughter, you're only related by marriage.
What the heck? It's so annoying. You get my hopes up for nothing. This is ridiculous. I lost my time coming here.
Upon learning she had no share, Mireille clicked her tongue and punched the nearby wall. The noise made Ken and the grandchildren turn around. Then Mireille snapped. Enough with the yelling. You guys really need to calm down. Cut it out. Come on, we're leaving. What? But we just got here. Yeah, Mom, you go back alone. The grandchildren raised their complaints, but Mireille glared at them and stormed out saying, I don't care anymore. Left behind, Ken sighed again. And began preparing to leave. The grandkids were sulking, but after some persuasion from Ken, they reluctantly followed Mireille, and my eldest son's family left. I always thought she was a bit strong-willed, but was she always this bad? She always acts impulsively, letting her emotions run wild and ignoring others around her based on her mood. I'm worried about Ken and the grandkids in such a situation. Even without considering me, I can't see how they can build a good family environment like this. Ken must have his own thoughts about it too. Someday, I'd like to have a calm talk with Ken. Whether it's about money, taking care of Yvonne and Kelly, or anything else, I want to help. I'll offer the next time we meet. Despite these thoughts, a few days later, I received news that I couldn't believe. It happened in an instant. On his way home from work, Ken was killed in a collision with a truck. No, it can't be. It's only been a few months since my husband died, and now Ken too has left this world. I was so devastated that I just collapsed. At that point, nothing else mattered. Why Ken? His kids are still so young. All sorts of dreadful thoughts were swirling around in my mind. The shock was so great that I barely remember the wake or the funeral. When things had somewhat settled down, Mireille approached me. About the kids, can we talk for a bit? It was about Yvonne and Kelly. That's right, I was so caught up in my own grief that I hadn't been there for them. I think I tried to comfort and hug them, but I don't remember well. Yvonne and Kelly must be emotionally unstable after their father's sudden death. They are only 8 years old after all. I felt ashamed of myself for just being down. Mireille must be thinking about the future as a mother. She's much more together than I am. I absolutely want Yvonne and Kelly, whom Ken left behind, to be happy. I intend to help in any way I can for that. About the kids. Yes, anything. I looked into Mireille's eyes and nodded firmly. Even if we don't share the same values or personalities, we can surely get along for a common purpose. However, what Mireille said next was the complete opposite of what I expected. Could you take Yvonne and Kelly? What? Mireille gave a slight laugh and continued dispassionately. Being remarried is tough with kids in tow. Remarried? Ken has just passed away, and this woman, his wife, is already thinking about remarriage? I stared at Mireille in astonishment. Unaware of my disdainful gaze, she kept talking. Look, Yvonne and Kelly are a bit off, right? They've been hard to raise.
Off? What do you mean?
While both are a bit mischievous, I've never thought of it as something wrong. Mireille scoffed at me through her nose. You haven't noticed, huh? Grandma is blissfully ignorant. Well, I guess things like developmental disorders weren't recognized in your time. Developmental disorders. I don't know much about it, but I've heard of it. Difficulties in communication, learning, and daily life are common. I think I saw a feature on TV about it. Are Yvonne and Kelly diagnosed with developmental disorders? They haven't been diagnosed, but Ken wanted to get it checked. I stopped him though. It's embarrassing, right? That's not right. I don't know much about developmental disorders. I've only seen Yvonne and Kelly when they visit, and never had any reason to suspect anything. I've heard that early intervention can make life easier for those with developmental disorders. Mireille deprived them of that opportunity just because she felt embarrassed.
Mireille! Are you even a mother?
My voice raised unintentionally. Mireille looked at me trembling, with cold eyes. Well, you wouldn't understand, would you? To blurt out something as embarrassing as being a poor dropout.
What?
I could feel my face heating up. Seeing this, Mireille's lips curled up in pleasure.
Ah. You do get embarrassed. Wow, that's unexpected. I thought you didn't care at all.
Her words made my face grow even hotter. I was raised by a single mother. I managed to graduate middle school, but dropped out during high school when my mother fell ill and we struggled financially. I started working through connections, so my highest education level is middle school. When Mireille was worried about her own education before she married my son, I told her about my education to support her. I thought it was helpful, but maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it.
This anger is because you mocked me, not because I'm embarrassed about being a dropout.
Ah, is that so? Well, great then. If you're shameless, you can take care of those kids, right? Mireille chuckled loudly as she said this.
I'll leave the kids with developmental disorders to the poor dropout.
I couldn't believe she was a mother too. Not only looking down on me, but also calling her own daughters names and trying to push them away without any regrets. Honestly, I wanted to slap her glittering, made-up cheeks. But knowing her, doing that could end up being used against me. Then I will raise them. It was hard for me to even say that. Hearing my answer, Mireille said good, with a satisfied look and left. Even if Mireille is the real mother of Yvonne and Kelly, I would be better than such a selfish person. On behalf of Ken, who passed away leaving the two behind, I am determined to shower them with limitless love and make them absolutely happy. In my heart, I quietly made a solemn promise to myself. Later, after going through the necessary procedures, Yvonne and Kelly officially came to live with me. Although I decided to raise them in place of Ken, I was inwardly nervous. I had moved forward without really asking how Yvonne and Kelly felt about it. Is it okay if from now on, instead of living with Mom, it's just me, Yvonne, and Kelly together? I asked, and both nodded. But I couldn't tell what they truly felt. I think they had warmed up to me. Still, if they had to choose between their real mother and me, I wasn't confident they would choose me. But I can't leave Yvonne and Kelly with Mireille after she said such things. On top of losing their father, Ken, the burden of living with their grandmother might be too much for the two little ones. At least, I have to make their life as comfortable and secure as possible. Fortunately, I had both the time and the financial means. Being a stay-at-home wife originally, I was flexible with my time, and thanks to the money left by my husband, I didn't have to worry about our living expenses. However, the word developmental disorders that Mireille mentioned stayed in the back of my mind. I had done some reading, and it seems that supporting children with developmental disorders requires a lot of patience and can be very challenging. Moreover, Yvonne and Kelly are twins. Everything is double. What if they have tantrums that I can't handle? Despite all my worries, our life together began without clear answers. Initially, Yvonne and Kelly were unstable. They were probably bewildered by the change in environment. Sometimes they would wake up at night and being unusually irritable. What if they continue to act out? They are still young and not fully able to understand if explained. I was anxious, but gradually the two began to settle down. In fact, after living together for over a year, they started to voluntarily help around the house. Both were eager to find things they could do. Whenever I found them doing well, I made sure to praise them. Yvonne is really good at folding laundry. You align the corners so neatly, it feels great to put them away. Kelly, you wash the dishes so quickly and without leaving anything behind. I'm amazed at how well you do it. Thank you, Yvonne and Kelly. Then, they would smile happily and hug me. Their expressions and actions were so adorable, I couldn't help but praise them again. Oh my, how can you two be so cute?
Yay! Maybe because we're your grandkids? We love you, Grandma.
They no longer had tantrums and had calmed down from their previously mischievous behavior. At a parent-teacher conference, their teacher said as much. Honestly, I'm surprised. They have calmed down so much compared to last year. Problem behaviors? None at all. According to their previous teacher, there used to be lots of issues and notes needed. But now, they play well with other kids and seem to be having fun. Was it just the passage of time? Anyway, they were doing well. I was relieved that, since taking in Yvonne and Kelly, I hadn't heard from Mireille at all. Doesn't she even wonder a little about her daughter's current situation? What their daily life is like now? How they are growing? A mother would want to see these things with her own eyes. If Mireille ever reached out wanting to meet, as long as Yvonne and Kelly didn't object, I was prepared to let them meet. It might have been an imposed arrangement, but I had no intention of taking her daughters away from her. However, not even a single email or phone call from her ever came. On the other hand, Yvonne and Kelly never mentioned her name either. But I didn't know when they might start missing her. If they ever asked, I was ready to handle it. Though I was prepared for that, Mireille's name never came up, and before I knew it, 10 years had passed. Yvonne and Kelly turned 18 and both decided to go to college. Yvonne, who was good at sports, showcased her tennis skills she started in high school and got into a college with a strong tennis team on a sports scholarship. Kelly, interested in medicine, worked hard at her studies and decided to go to the same university as Yvonne, enrolling in the medical school. I was very proud that the two of them had chosen their own paths. But at the same time, I felt a bit lonely. The little Yvonne and Kelly had grown up so much and would become even more independent, living on their own. I was happy they had grown up so well. Yet, it was sad to see them fly the nest. When they left home for college, the three of us hugged and cried together. Both of you, contact me immediately if anything happens. I'll come running. Thanks. You should worry about yourself, Mom. We'll come home during the long breaks. And we'll call too. Don't push yourself. Remember, you're not young anymore, they said. At some point, they both started calling me Mom. I felt it was presumptuous and tried to correct them, but they insisted, but to us, you are the only mom and wouldn't hear otherwise, and so it has remained. Yes. Thank you. Yvonne and Kelly, you both make me so proud. Even after starting college, the two of them seemed to be doing well. Yvonne competed in the national tennis championships, and Kelly maintained top grades. They truly had grown up splendidly. Just as I was deeply moved by how soon they'd be fully independent, I received an unexpected call. It was from Mireille. It's been a while. Though I had forgotten her voice, hearing her unique way of speaking brought her face flooding back to my mind. It's been a while. What can I do for you? I could hear Mireille chuckling on the other end of the phone. Don't be so tense. I just wanted to say thank you to my mother-in-law. Thank you? For what? For Yvonne and Kelly. Mireille was in an exceptionally good mood. They seemed to have turned out quite impressive. A national athlete and a top-performing future doctor. As their mother, I couldn't be prouder. After having abandoned her daughters so easily, her playing the mother now was infuriating. I nearly snapped back reflexively, but managed to hold it in. More importantly, I wondered how Mireille knew about the girls. How do you know about them? You haven't met them, have you? Were they meeting her secretly without telling me? When I nervously asked, Mireille denied it. No way. I just happened to see it on social media. At first, I didn't recognize them just by their faces, but then I read Miracle Twins and was like, that's Yvonne and Kelly. I was so surprised. She didn't seem to be lying. I don't use social media, so I hadn't known. Actually, my current boyfriend runs a video site, and he wants to feature them. What? So, can I have their contact information? After more than 10 years without a word, this is what she says? She wants to turn Yvonne and Kelly into a spectacle. I wanted her to stop joking around. I'll have to ask them. I can't just give it out.
It's okay. I'm their mother, right? They'll definitely be happy. No, I can't without their consent.
Mireille seemed annoyed and fell silent for a moment. Then she casually started speaking again. Fine. Ask them soon. If you don't, I'll keep calling you. Understood. I was reluctant, but it was true that Mireille was their mother. It's about them, so it's fine. They're sure to say no. I reassured myself and contacted Yvonne and Kelly. Their reply came quickly, but it confused me. Send me the ID for the messaging app. I have something I want to talk about too. Yvonne said she'd get in touch, so I didn't think it was necessary, but if you're giving out mine too, just use the messaging app. As a result, both agreed it was okay to share their contact information. This was unexpected for me. There was nothing I could do. Despite feeling uneasy, I gave Mireille Yvonne's ID. Thank you. That reply marked the end of our exchange. That night, Yvonne contacted me. I'm going to meet her soon. Just letting you know, Mom.
What? With Mireille? Why, when?
Next Sunday. Kelly will be there too, so it's fine. Yvonne said it casually. She showed no signs of nervousness or confusion. Then it wasn't my place to interfere. But I couldn't help myself. Can I come too? Sure, but it's near our college, which is far for you. I won't interfere. I could just watch from a distance. I didn't know what Mireille had told them, but as she mentioned, her current boyfriend might come along. If Mireille tried anything, I wanted to be close enough to respond quickly. Mom, you worry too much. I'll let you know the time and place once it's confirmed. Thank you. The next day, after Yvonne contacted me, I started making preparations. On the day they were to meet Mireille, I had traveled all the way to their college in Kentucky by train. They were supposed to meet in the afternoon, so we met in the morning, had lunch, and spent some relaxing time together. It's about time. Shall we go? Mireille had chosen a park near the university. While the girls waited at a cafe in the park, I sat on a nearby bench to keep watch. Mireille showed up about 30 minutes late. A man I didn't recognize was with her. Probably her current boyfriend. Before they even met up, the man had something like a handheld camera ready.
Long time no see. Yvonne. Kelly. I missed you guys. Even after 10 years, I can recognize you at a glance. My precious treasures.
With a dreamy voice, Mireille rushed towards the two to hug them. It seemed like a reunion after more than 10 years of separation. The man aimed the camera to not miss a moment. Just as Mireille was about to touch Kelly, she quickly stepped back, leaving Miray's arms embracing empty air. Huh? Kelly. What are you doing? You haven't forgotten, have you? It's mommy, you know? Miray blinked in disbelief. While the man beside her still had the camera ready, he seemed puzzled. What you're doing should be my question, right? After more than 10 years, we're practically strangers. Yet, to hug each other right after meeting, that's just weird. Kelly said with a sigh, causing Miray's face to turn red with embarrassment. Kelly. I'm saddened by this. Is it because of your mother's influence? When did you become so rude? The Kelly I know is supposed to be more like me, a kinderchild. Miray said, her face reddening. Watching this, Yvonne chuckled, and Miray turned back with a blush. Hey. Yvonne. What's so funny about this? Well, you see, you just don't get it at all. What? Frowning, Miray demanded an answer, and Yvonne calmly replied. I'm Yvonne. The one you've been talking to is Kelly. Can you tell at a glance? What do you understand? Oh. Miray fell silent, grinding her teeth. To me, the difference between Yvonne and Kelly was clear at a glance, but being twins, it seemed they couldn't be easily distinguished. Miray looked frustrated. As if she were about to erupt, but after being whispered to by the man, she regained her composure. I'm sorry. It's been a while, so I made a mistake. But I'm happy to see you both. Miray said with a smile, trying to lighten the mood. Approaching Yvonne and Kelly, she reached out her hand. But the two quickly brushed it off. For a moment, Miray's face twisted, but she quickly returned to her forced smile. That's mean. But I guess that's how it is. Are you guys feeling shy? Well, I guess that's understandable. Miray said, as if making excuses, to the camera. Yvonne suddenly pointed at the camera. Is this live streaming? You guys are the ones who upload couple videos, right? Upon Yvonne's observation, Kelly's face lit up with excitement. Yes. That's right. You knew about it? I'm thrilled. You always go viral with controversial topics, don't you? I was surprised when my friends showed me. It's so trivial. Huh? Ignoring Miray's furrowed brow, Kelly also agreed with Yvonne. Me too. I thought it was so cliché and embarrassing to watch. Acting all lovey-dovey, gossiping about others, always stirring up controversies. If it were me, I'd be too embarrassed to do it. What did you say? Miray trembled with rage, her face contorted in fury. And lately, even when aiming for controversial topics on the edge, you're not getting any buzz at all. So, what? You're desperate, and you thought you'd somehow get popular by leeching off us. Hey, don't you feel sick just parasitizing off others? Shut up. You. Oh. Yvonne. With a loud bang, as if echoing, followed by a delayed burning sensation in my cheek. I collapsed on the spot, overwhelmed by the force. Mom! Yvonne and Kelly both knelt beside me. Miray pointed at us and hysterically screamed profanities. Abandoned by me, raised by a poor high school graduate hag. Acting all high and mighty. You have no right. You think you can get popular just because of this situation. You're just taking advantage of it. Even though you're mentally disabled. You're going to decline in the future anyway. She ranted furiously, breathing heavily. Then, as her eyes met the man's, her face turned pale. Oh, this is not. It's not like that. I just lost my temper, it's not what I truly meant. You say it's not what you truly meant, yet you can say such terrible things so smoothly. As I struggled to stand up, Miray looked flustered. I'm so glad you gave me these kids. I'm really grateful for that. Oh, this person is treating children like objects. Due to the guilt of having a camera present, Miray nervously glanced around. Oh, so you said it. You'll give the developmentally challenged kids away to a poor, high school dropout hag.
Don't say that in front of them.
These kids are smart, so they understand everything. They know that you've treated them like nuisances and only seen them as useful tools. That's why both Yvonne and Kelly were more attached to Ken. If I had known they would turn out this great, I would have raised them myself. You're just trying to take credit for it. Who do you think you are? That's not true. No, it's not. Yvonne and Kelly stood in front of me, as if protecting me. If you had raised us, we wouldn't have had such fulfilling lives.
You wouldn't know that.
I do. At the time, Dad was busy, so we spent more time with you, and we were acting out. According to the two of them, Mireille had almost neglected them, not bothering to listen to them even when they came home from school. At that time, I was trying to get your attention, so I was always causing troubles. But it's different since we've been living with Mom. Yeah. Mom actually looked after us.
Yvonne.
Kelly. Smiling and looking at us, they tightly held my hand. You entrusted us to Mom. That's the only thing I'm grateful to you for.
What are you saying? I'm your mom, right? I'm the one who gave birth to you. She's just a hag, right?
As Mireille heated up, she grabbed my collar, but she was stopped by a police officer who appeared from somewhere. It seems that people around, who had witnessed the commotion, called them. Don't come near us again, ever. Well, that won't be a concern for a while. As Mireille was restrained by the police officer and the man, she glared at the two of them resentfully. Later, Mireille and the man were cautioned at the police station. This was because, despite it requires a permit for filming in that park, they had been streaming without it. Also, it seems that they had perfectly captured the scenes of Mireille slapping me and hurling insults, as the account was deleted. Originally, they had a fair number of followers, and Mireille and the man were identified by their address and ended up having to move due to harassment from their surroundings. With the account deleted, they lost their income, so they are barely managing to live by borrowing money from a finance company. However, there seems to be no prospect of repayment, and they were caught up in debt collection, working while panting. It's truly a case of reaping what one sows. After what happened, I was worried about whether Yvonne and Kelly were okay mentally, but they both seemed unfazed. I don't care about anything that woman says. Yeah, exactly. Our mom is our mom, period. Frankly, I feel relieved that we don't have to deal with them anymore. It's really reassuring. Even though they're living separately now, every long break they come back and pester me to cook for them. They're so adorable, and it makes me happy that they're so open about needing me. I feel like I need to live a long life to continue watching over their future.
A wife should follow her husband. Listen, don't you dare embarrass me.
Even inviting just my sister over, Tom puts pressure on me. Is public appearance that important to him? To me, she's my dear, precious sister. For me, who lost my parents, she's the only one I can truly trust, yet somehow I can't feel at ease. It must be because Tom is there. However, the situation changes. Hey, Tom. Why is there something behind you? That was my sister's first comment upon seeing Tom. Hearing that, Tom visibly panicked. Watching that, I was sure I hadn't been mistaken. My name is Julie Andrew. I'm a housewife in my 30s. I met my husband Tom a few years ago at the company we worked for. He was the ace everyone admired, working in the same department as me. I was one of those who admired Tom. So, when he proposed, I was shocked. Tom, the envy of our colleagues, and me, just an unremarkable employee. Yet, Tom had been paying attention to me. I was really happy about that. I accepted Tom's proposal with 2 conditions. After that, we started dating and quickly got married. That was because I was reaching my 30s, and if I considered having children, sooner was better. At Tom's insistence, I resigned from the company I had been working for. It seemed too hard to manage both work and household chores. Eventually, I would have to take care of children, and clearly, there wouldn't be enough time. Tom wasn't poorly paid, so I thought we could manage. However, we were unable to have children as we had hoped. No matter how many times we try, we can't get pregnant. Frustrated, Tom told me to go for fertility treatments. But, isn't this something couples do together? I feel uneasy going alone, and I want Tom to come with me. These days, it's understood that infertility isn't just a woman's issue. Thinking that identifying the cause could lead to a solution, I suggested we go to the gynecologist together, adding that I would rearrange my schedule. However, Tom grimaced at my words. That place isn't for men. You should just go by yourself quickly and take care of what's needed. Don't make me get involved. How can you say that? It's normal for couples to deal with fertility treatments together. It might even be your issue too. When I said that, Tom, who had been calm, suddenly shouted, "What did you say?" Startled by his sudden change in demeanor, I fell to the ground. Tom looked down at me with a vein popping on his forehead.
Are you saying I'm defective? A wife shouldn't talk back. Listen, it's your fault we can't have kids. You're the problem. You're a defective wife, and that's why we're not blessed with children.
His harsh words left me speechless. Only fear dominated my mind as I kept apologizing, and, once Tom calmed down, I fled to my room. Since we got married, I've been unable to stand up to Tom. Tom believes a woman should support her man and a wife is her husband's slave, and has tried to control me in every way. At that time, I didn't even have the capacity to see how wrong this was. If I ever tried to stand up to Tom, he would shout, pressure me, and force me to fold my stance. The thought of divorce strangely never crossed my mind. Looking back, I see Tom as a terrifying figure I must never cross, which is probably why I couldn't even conceive of betraying him. If I had divorced Tom and escaped from his control, I wouldn't have faced such a terrible outcome. Despite undergoing fertility tests at the gynecologist's, no issues were found with me. So, could it be Tom? No matter how much I pleaded, he refused to get tested, insisting, there can't be anything wrong with me. If you're fine, it'll happen eventually. In the end, we never discovered the cause of our inability to conceive. Though my in-laws never pressed us, they occasionally mentioned how relatives had recently welcomed grandchildren, making me feel subtly pressured. It's not that we're rushing you, but you know, children aren't something you can just have any time. It might be hard if you decide you want them later. Hearing this from my mother-in-law made me feel uncomfortable. It's not that I don't want children. On the contrary, I love kids and was determined to cherish my own if I had any. But what can't be, can't be. So I just plastered on a fake smile and got through those moments. Julie is such a sloppy wife. Tom must feel awkward because of it, said my father-in-law, with Tom nodding in agreement. Yeah, really. At home, she keeps nagging me to help with chores or to go to the hospital. It's really cramped living like this. Hearing Tom's words, my in-laws frowned in sympathy. Indeed, I had asked for help with the chores, but it was only when I was feeling ill, and since Tom was off that day, I merely asked him to take out the laundry from wash machine. Yet, Tom furiously said, "How can you make your husband do household chores when you're a stay-at-home wife?" Since then, no matter how bad I felt, I've dealt with everything myself, but Tom, with his good public face, has gained immense trust from my in-laws. Therefore, if Tom says something, it's taken as the absolute truth. I was inevitably painted as the villain by my in-law family, making it unbearable to visit them. Yet, Tom disliked being alone with me at home and would always say, "We should visit my parents over the weekend. My mom and dad worry about me. I'm their precious only son, I need to show my face regularly, or they'll worry." Even though I objected, I was forcefully taken to visit his parents. My parents died in a car accident a few years ago, and the only family I can call mine is my sister Kelly. Yet, while Tom frequently wants to see his parents, he strongly dislikes it when I want to see my family. You're already a member of the Andrews family. You should be devoted to me and my parents, don't forget that. All I could do was nod in agreement to Tom's words, hating myself more than anything else. In the end, I never got to meet my sister Kelly. We just exchanged messages or talked over the phone when Tom wasn't around. Over the phone, Kelly sounded worried about me, her voice tinged with anxiety. "Are you really okay? Should I come over next time?" After all, I haven't even met Tom yet. By this time, Tom and I had been married for 3 years, yet Kelly and Tom had never met face to face. Normally, you'd expect to visit each other's families when you get married, but Kelly was too busy with work to find the time. She was at the wedding, which was a large event with many bosses and friends invited, so there wasn't much time for personal greetings, and we agreed to greet the relatives when there was more time. Therefore, although Kelly knew what Tom looked like, she didn't really know what kind of person he was. And the same was true from Tom's perspective. "That sister of yours, I bet she's nothing special. No parents even. She's got nothing good going for her. She'll probably end up old and alone." Tom often laughed and said such things about Kelly. Every time he spoke like that, all I could do was bite my lip and look down. How could I not be angry when he spoke ill of my only important family member? Yet, having come to see Tom as a terrifying figure, I couldn't muster the courage to contradict him. However, the situation was about to change abruptly. The trigger was that Kelly's birthday was approaching. Glancing at the calendar, I realized it was already close to next month. Time seemed to be moving faster than I thought, and I sighed involuntarily. "What? Is there something you're unhappy about?" Seeing me like that, Tom looked displeased. Worried that I had angered him, I stammered out the situation. "I just realized that Kelly's birthday is coming up soon. That's all it is, so don't worry about it," I said, trying to smile as if to cover up. I worried whether I managed to smile properly, but seeing my expression, Tom grinned. Right, Tom said with a slightly creepy smile. "Come to think of it, I haven't met your sister yet. Bring her over next time. It's about time we did the greetings." I couldn't help but exclaim, "What?" Tom had always acted like he couldn't care less about my sister. What changed? The joy of seeing my sister after so many years mixed with suspicion jumbled my thoughts. "A fragile wife like you must have a hard time doing the housework by herself. Since she's single anyway, I'll persuade her to help you with the housework. It'll be good for me too, since I'll have 2 more slaves." Hearing Tom continue like this, I frowned, realizing he just wanted another servant. Though my sister Kelly is single, she has her own life. Hearing Tom's words made me hesitant to call her, but by then, it was already set in motion that I would invite her over, so I decided to just make it a meeting and contacted her.
A wife should follow her husband. Don't you dare embarrass me.
As the day of Kelly's arrival approached, I was bombarded daily with such demands. He was probably trying to pressure me into not seeking help from my sister. But I never wanted to bother her with my personal problems anyway, so it was all in vain. Eventually, the day came when my sister came to our house. As I was doing housework and waiting, the doorbell rang. "Sis, long time no see." When I opened the door, there stood Kelly. It had been since the wedding since we last met, but she looked as lively as ever, which was a relief. I invited her in, and Tom, who had dressed up more than usual, appeared. Initially, Tom stood tall and puffed up his chest, but he froze the moment he saw Kelly. "Is something wrong?" No, not really." After all, Kelly was incredibly beautiful. Her beauty was such that she had been chosen for her university's beauty pageant multiple times. Back when we were in school, there were attempts to connect with my sister Kelly, with people reaching out to me to help make that happen. It's sad to admit, but I'm not very attractive. Makeup can fix that up to a point, but Kelly has a beauty that transcends all of that. When Tom first saw Kelly, he blushed slightly and stared at her. It seemed like his mouth was hanging open, and honestly, it made me feel sick. I stepped between them. "Let me introduce you. This is my sister, Kelly. Kelly, this is my husband, Tom. Thank you for coming today." Kelly smiled and said, "Thank you," but Tom's gaze was fixed on her. Seeing Tom like this, Kelly looked puzzled. I thought maybe Tom's intrusive staring was bothering me, but Kelly's next comment cleared up that misunderstanding. Hey, Tom, why is there a baby behind you? Tom looked confused by Kelly's words. I didn't understand her at first either, but then I remembered something about her condition. Kelly has a unique sensitivity. Since she was little, she would point at empty spaces, smiling and talking as if someone was there. Of course, our parents found it odd and asked her if someone was there. Kelly claimed it was our great-grandfather, who had already passed away by then. It seems like she might have a kind of sixth sense. It was a sensation I couldn't understand, but living with her, I naturally came to accept that Kelly sees things. She never tried to hide her ability, greeting and laughing at thin air. People who found this eerie naturally drifted away from her, but Kelly, who welcomes all and chases none, continued behaving as she pleased without worrying about others. Her being unmarried might also be due to this mindset. People who approached her just based on her looks often got scared off after seeing her behavior. But Kelly herself didn't seem bothered by it. Kelly, what are you seeing exactly? Curious about Kelly mentioning a baby, I asked her to explain. Then, my sister detailed what she could see behind Tom. According to Kelly, it wasn't just one presence behind Tom. Blurry baby-like figures are clinging to Tom's back. Some even hugging his body. Julie mentioned having trouble conceiving, but that's probably most likely Tom's fault. Tom exclaimed, "What?" as he turned pale imagining the described scene, his usual facade crumbling as he began to sweat and glared at Kelly and me.
What is this about ghosts or whatever? They can't be real. Are you trying to scare me? That's in poor taste.
Kelly wasn't trying to frighten anyone. She was just reporting what she saw. Suddenly, Kelly smiled at Tom. Or so I thought, but her gaze wasn't on him. It was directed at the baby behind him. Poor thing, she muttered. According to her, all the baby figures had pained expressions. As if they were glaring at Tom like enemies. What did you do? These children seem to hold a grudge against you. You'll probably face severe consequences if this continues. They already have enough influence to affect you. It wouldn't be surprising if things took an irreversible turn. Kelly said earnestly, clearly not joking. Such is the dire state of Tom's situation. Why had things come to this? Why were these babies attached to Tom? I couldn't imagine why and swallowed hard. Tom, what did you do? Why has it come to this? Ordinarily, this wouldn't happen. Kelly added, I've never seen anyone in this state before. It must take something significant to be resented by so many babies. What exactly had Tom done? Initially, Tom remained silent, but as our stern looks wore him down, he began to shout in desperation.
What the heck? I was just playing around. Why has it come to this?
Just playing around? What do you mean? When I heard Tom's words, something clicked. I asked him, and Tom hesitantly closed his mouth, looking uncomfortable. The vision of many babies in Tom's demeanor seemed to give away the answer. Could it be, were you cheating? Tom quickly responded, no. But his face, pale and sweaty, suggested he was lying. Observing our interaction, my sister Kelly, who had been quiet, spoke up, may I say something? She then shared her understanding. These babies are probably Tom's children. They were supposed to be born but couldn't be. They want to be born, and that's why they are clinging to Tom. Hearing this, I realized my suspicions were correct. Tom had been involved with multiple women. And it likely continued even after our marriage. He had physical relationships with many women, leading to pregnancies that ended in abortions. As a result, the poor children who never got to be born harbored feelings of resentment, haunting their father, Tom. Unbelievable. I had struggled to have children, but to me, children are precious. Yet, what Tom and his mistresses did was as if they were dismissing these children. Regardless of whether they were wanted or not, what they did was infuriating. Of course, the cheating itself was unforgivable. It was a betrayal to me. But now, I thought it was good I hadn't gotten pregnant. If I had, my child might have ended up as one of those haunting Tom. The thought was overwhelmingly painful. With our disdainful looks upon him, Tom became flustered. Then he burst out, "Don't say stupid things.
There's no way ghosts exist. You two must have conspired against me. I don't know anything. I really don't know anything."
It seemed Tom had no intention of admitting his guilt. I can understand why it's hard to believe in my sister's abilities. I understand that the abilities my sister Kelly has are real, having spent years with her, but for Tom, who met her for the first time today, such things aren't easily believed. However, if it were just some insignificant lie, he wouldn't be so rattled. Tom's reaction itself supports what Kelly is saying. If there was nothing on his mind, he could just stand firm. His inability to do so indicates he has something to hide. It doesn't really matter, but given the suspicions of your infidelity, I'm going to do what I need to do. Let's take some time apart. I don't want to live with someone who might have incurred the wrath of so many babies. I had never felt the urge to stand up to Tom before, because I saw him as a terrifying figure who must not be crossed. But now, I feel differently. Tom is a frightening figure. Perhaps more than I ever realized. But hearing Kelly's words, I couldn't just forgive and forget. I can't continue a marital life with such a person. It's better to end it right here. Tom looked shocked at my words.
What? Why? You loved me, didn't you? Why would you come to such a conclusion?
Surprisingly, Tom seemed to misunderstand that I didn't want a divorce because I still loved him. How naive. After enduring pressure day after day, cold stares, and forced interactions with in-laws I never wanted, it's absurd to think I could still harbor any love. The affection I once had for Tom has faded over the years. Now, I only feel a profound fear towards him, but no love remains.
Please, don't say anything absurd. Like I could still love you after all the horrible things you've said. Just stop, let's get divorced. I've reached my limit. There's no need for me to remain married to someone like you.
I made my intentions clear. I'm done spending any more time on Tom. It's best to cut ties and keep my distance. Ignoring Tom's attempt to stop me, I went back to my room. I grabbed only the most essential belongings and returned to the living room. Kelly, who had been quietly observing everything, seemed to understand what I intended to do, but she didn't reproach me. I'll be leaving now. I'll send the divorce papers by mail later, don't forget to file them.
Hey! Wait!
Tom called out, but I ignored him and took my sister Kelly's hand, leaving the house. Despite the sudden decision, Kelly smiled at me warmly and suggested, "Let's go to my place for now." Kelly's house was a bit far from the home I shared with Tom, but as I had been a stay-at-home wife, it wouldn't affect my job search or the process of finding a new place to live. We settled on me staying with her for a while. "You can stay as long as you need," she told me, but I knew it wasn't good to rely on family forever. Having missed Kelly so much over the years we couldn't meet, I thought about finding a place close to her even when I get my own. Kelly even suggested I apply at her company, because they were short on office staff. I had the right qualifications for an office job, so I decided to go for an interview. I received high praise and was offered a job through a mid-career entry. One day, while relaxing at home after work, the doorbell rang. Earlier than Kelly's usual return. I was puzzled for a moment but assumed it must be a delivery and opened the door, only to find Tom standing there. "How did you find this place?" I exclaimed. Tom wasn't supposed to know where Kelly lived. "How could you know where this is?" Seeing him again, when I thought our paths would never cross, made me break out in a cold sweat. Unperturbed, Tom, who looked a bit thinner, explained,
"I saw you near the station the other day. I followed you from there and figured out this is where you live. Look, Julie, let's start over. Divorce isn't good. Ever since then, I keep hearing things. Voices saying they won't forgive me.
It seemed Tom might have lost his senses. Or perhaps, the children clinging to him were venting their feelings of resentment. I can't be sure without Kelly here, but having spent so much time with her, I've become somewhat knowledgeable about these matters. Despite this, Tom continued.
And things have been strange at home too. Just the other day, I found nails in the bathroom, tiny ones, like from a baby.
Tom spoke in utter desperation. If left as it is, things would surely turn irretrievable, just as Kelly had said. It might already be too late. Yet, I felt no inclination to extend a helping hand to the pitiful man before me.
Please, come back. Or at least call your sister right now. I was wrong. I won't betray you again. Please, just help me.
He must have been extremely desperate. Tom simultaneously prostrated himself right there on the spot. Prostrating in front of someone's house, how disgraceful. The Tom of just a short while ago would not have done this due to his pride. I realized how cornered he must feel, and I couldn't help but smirk a bit. Tom kept pleading, please, I beg you. Since it's my sister's house and it would be troublesome if the neighbors saw. I decided to give him a bit of attention. But I wasn't going to truly offer a helping hand. Isn't this just desserts? You shouldn't have done things to earn such resentment. If you had behaved properly as an adult, none of this would have happened, right? It's all because of you and your affairs.
Don't be so cold,
Tom replied, no longer denying his infidelity. He was clearly distressed. But even if he begged, I was not in the spirit to help him.
I'm sorry, but give it up. We are not going to help you,
I said firmly. Yet Tom shook his head in refusal and clung to my feet.
Don't be so cold. I'm really at my wit's end. If things continue like this, I might really suffer terribly. I'll take any help I can get, please. I can't do anything without you, Julie.
His absurd claims nearly made me dizzy. The label of a terrifying figure I had for Tom was rapidly peeling away. Before me was just a pitiful man. Yet, the sins he accumulated were real, and I owed him no assistance. This is your own doing. If you had behaved responsibly as an adult, you wouldn't be in this situation. Why couldn't you understand that? I suffered terribly being married to you. I should have divorced you much sooner. Hearing my words, Tom appeared relieved. His face was so amusing that I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Then, with a smile still on my face, I said, please leave. If you don't go now, I'll call the police. The police? It seemed that the last thing he wanted was to deal with the police because, at my words, Tom panicked and ran off as fast as he could. Later, when my sister Kelly came home, I explained the situation. She hadn't expected such a thing to happen and commented with a troubled expression, living people can be much scarier, huh? As expected, Tom was reluctant to go through with our divorce. Feeling that we were getting nowhere, I decided to hire a lawyer. When I told Tom that if he did not divorce me, we would have to go to court, he seemed reluctant to do so and reluctantly accepted the divorce. As ridiculous as it sounds, even through this ordeal, Tom did not stop seeing his mistresses. Perhaps in his pressured situation, that was the only enjoyment he had left. For caution, I had hired a detective to keep track of Tom's activities. Though I thought it would be difficult to gather evidence after his infidelity was exposed, I was surprised to receive a large number of photos when the detective reported back. Using this evidence, I demanded alimony from Tom and several of his mistresses. Most of them left him after this, it seems. Eventually left alone, Tom lived in fear of irreversible consequences, shrinking away from life. Soon, he could hardly manage his job and was practically fired. His parents, who had previously boasted about their precious only son, no longer had the energy to care for their troubled child. Tom was left to pay off his debts from the alimony by doing whatever day jobs he could find. Meanwhile, I was thriving at the company where Kelly worked. I had recently been promoted due to my excellent performance. Although I had found a nice house, considering everything with Tom, I decided it would be better for Kelly and me to live together. In these uncertain times, it seemed wiser for us to be together rather than alone. My brief marriage had been a hellish ordeal. But this experience seemed to have deepened my bond with my sister.
Happy birthday, Julie,
Kelly said, celebrating my 30th birthday. I was overwhelmed with joy, my cheeks loosening with happiness. I will continue to cherish my sister, my only family, from now on. That was my renewed resolution.